Hello and welcome to Meet Me in Tennessee. This podcast is sponsored by the Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association. You can find us online on all the socials and on our website at northeasttennessee.org. In anticipation of Tennessee Songwriters Week, we have Jacob Danielsen-Moore here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And Tennessee Songwriters Week kicks off on February 19th. So Jacob is a local to the Tri-Cities musician, and he's also a songwriter himself. Can you tell our listeners about your music style?
Yeah, I play in a handful of different projects. There's most of them have a pretty heavy, I guess, like punk rock influence. My singer-songwriter project is a little on the folk side, but it's still like pretty heavily influenced from the music I've grown up playing.
Okay, I always think of you as like a punk musician.
Yeah.
So growing up, what would you say kind of inspired you to get into that music style?
I kind of discovered punk rock when I was like 14 years old. My buddies and I like used to skateboard, and obviously someone shows up with a like bootleg cassette and it's got Black Flag and Pennywise and NoFX and The Clash and all of like the staples of if it's 1998 and you're in a place that you have to drive 30 minutes to find a compilation record or whatever. Those are all of your like foot in the door punk bands.
Absolutely. Would this been a time where cassettes were popular?
So we were poor. So yeah, CDs were expensive, and everyone had a CD player with a cassette deck on it. So if we made our way up to like Cat's Music and we found like a Fat Wreck compilation or a Epitaph Records compilation or something, we would dub as many of those onto an 8-hour like Maxwell cassette that we could fit.
Good times. Cat's Music, which one? Which store was that?
Cat's Music was where you used to go and buy like concert tickets. You'd buy vinyl had phased out at that point, and people weren't really collecting it. Like CDs were all the rage. So you can buy CDs and cassettes there. It is where it's on the back end of Target, where Wood U used to be, that unfinished wood store. And I think there's like a hot tub spa store there now.
Yes, I remember now. Just going there and digging through
Yeah.
records and all kinds of fun
Yeah.
audio relics.
It was a cool spot. And if there was like a big concert in like Knoxville or, somewhere, not necessarily close, but like regionally close, they usually were your ticket master for that. So like I saw the Foo Fighters, Muse, and Red Hot Chili Peppers at Thompson Bowling Arena, and like, yeah, I think it was like maybe '99, and it was the Californication tour, and my mom bought my tickets at Cat's Music for it.
Oh my goodness, what a lineup! I'd love to see Muse.
It was cool.
So during that time, do you remember writing like one of your first songs or?
I probably wrote my first song when I was like 5 or 6.
Were you playing instruments at that time or just?
Not really. I started playing guitar around 8 or 9, somewhere in there. And my dad is a bluegrass musician.
Okay.
And I didn't really have the licks for it. So, we would have a cool like afternoon of him trying to teach me how to play a Shokin Farewell and me not being able to keep time with him, and that thing that you do when you get irritated with your kids, our parents also do with us. So when I discovered punk rock and I started listening to bands like the Ramones and NoFX and a lot of that like really, really good music, but like really simple, like meat and potatoes, just fast rock and roll stuff. That's when I was like, oh, I could do this too. And so I would say around 12 or 13, I started like really absorbing it and like playing more.
How interesting. So do you think, like, because your dad was a musician, even though it might have not been the music you picked up first, that kind of influenced your curiosity to play?
1,000,000%. Because even the stuff that I play now, I've in like my writing styles with bands that I've been in the past. Whatever genre that we were in, something about the songs that I would bring to the table would be just a touch different. So with my solo project and my solo band that I have now too, it translates very well to like not necessarily bluegrass, but like it sounds like something a person from Appalachia wrote. You know what I mean? So it's
Like in a rhythm sense, kind of?
and the rhythm sense and like where you put your little hammer-ons, where you like just stuff that I do, stuff that I let like ring open. I've traditionally done because I feel like I'm not a super proficient guitar player. Like I'm not a great guitar player. But friends that have like worked with me that have like maybe played lead in my band or like did other things, have in like recently have been like, hey, I like how you let this ring out in this one spot or whatever. And these are people that are like I view like I'm down here and they're way up here as far as like talent and just like how well they play their instrument.
So you talk about being in a couple bands.
Yeah.
What bands are you in currently?
Do you want me to give you the name of all of them?
If you're comfortable, as many,
Okay.
many as you want to talk about.
I play bass in a hardcore band called God Size, and that's just super heavy, like fast, like screamy stuff.
Okay. Are these all local bands?
Yeah, and God Size is super fun. The guitar player that's in that band is my friend Wes, and he is probably the best guitar player I've ever played with. Which is really I've had to learn how to play bass better for that band.
And are we just talking about like your standard bass, or is it a stand-up bass?
No, it's a standard electric bass. But yeah, that band is a lot of fun to play in. And like I said, Wes is such a technical guitar player that I actually had to like not necessarily relearn how to play bass, but I had to be like, okay, like I can't like fudge these things. I have to actually learn how to do the stuff that he's doing, or it's not going to sound good.
Like it's more fast-paced, or?
It's just more technical. It's more fast-paced. His strumming patterns are like they're insane to me, and I don't know theory, so I can't describe what his strumming patterns are other than like I had to learn how to do them, and it was taking a song that's like a pretty fast-paced song and deconstructing it down to like one note at a time, and then like double timing that, and then double timing that, and then like finally getting to where we're playing at the rhythm that we play this song, and like so that's been a challenge, but it's been a really fun challenge. And the guys in that band are like my like lifelong family, so it's cool that like we don't do a lot, but like we're fun, you know what I mean?
Okay, so this is just kind of like a project on the side of the music that
Right.
you tour with.
The music I tour with, I tour under my name Jacob Danielsen-Moore. And then I have a full band that comes with me for some shows, and we're just called Jacob Danielsen-Moore and the Boys.
Okay.
And yeah. Cool. And it's I call it holler bop, but it's whatever. It's what like pop punk and punk rock sounds like when you're 40.
Holler bop, so you've made your own genre?
No, I mean, I guess it's a silly thing. Everyone has to like assign some sort of like label to what they do, and I think that just like what I write about, kind of, it's very centric to our area and like our experiences, and that's I think that's why I called it holler bop, because it's
Holler bop. Can you delve more into that? Like what could you say about the area kind of influences and inspires you to write music?
all of the good and all of the bad.
Okay.
I have a song called Deep Valley, and Deep Valley is about Irwin, because I grew up in Irwin, and it's just about like my experience from being 14 years old on and discovering, specifically punk rock, but just music in general. And that kind of changing the trajectory of like what the expectations were of me and what my expectations were for life. And I feel like I've accomplished most of my goals in life. And I didn't set like super like lofty goals, but the things that I knew would make me happy, I found those, and so
Something to be proud of.
yeah, and that song is about a couple things, but it's about like losing friends as I've gone on, because I'm fortunate, you're fortunate, we've survived life, and we have a lot of people that we've loved along the way that for one reason or another did not, and maybe it was their time, maybe it wasn't their time, but selfishly, I don't think it was their time, and so, yeah, and that song, talks about the friend that brought the cassette tape with Black Flag and Pennywise on it to come skateboard with us. And it also talks about, people that I've met, like touring and playing music that have either booked my band or like showed me hospitality in another city that like, for one reason or another, they also, crossed early. And so it's a really like heavy content song. And when I first wrote it, it was super somber and fingerpicked, and I couldn't finish it. I couldn't sing it all the way through. So I like sped it up and I gave it like almost like a 90s like skate punk feel, like a NoFX or a Blink 182, like that kind of like a little like snottier like whatever to it.
And is this with like an audio board, or how are you speeding things up just with your playing?
Just from the time that I wrote it until I recorded it.
Okay.
So we play it with the full band, and it sounds nothing like it's recorded on my album. But the way that I recorded on my album sounds nothing like the way I wrote it. So,
okay.
But yeah, most of our songs are about like, regionally just experiences that my friends and I that have had here. And some of the songs are really sad. Some of them are like just kind of ridiculous,
Okay. Are there any set of lyrics from that song that you could share?
From Deep Valley?
Deep Valley?
Yeah. The first verse is my friend Ben brought me a bootleg punk rock tape in the summer of '98 when we learned to skate. At Pennywise, The Clash, and Black Flag 2, we did gas station speed, we smoked cigarettes, and we drank booze. But Ben didn't make it out. I was fortunate too. Ben, my friend, I guess this song's for you.
Wow, that's precious.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Will you be playing that song on your upcoming tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And can you tell us a little bit about that tour?
Yeah, I'm doing 12 days-ish. I'm starting in Louisville, Kentucky at Magnolia Bar, which is like one of my favorite places in the world to play. So I'm doing Louisville, and then I'm doing Brickyard in Knoxville, and then I play Elder Brew in Bristol, and then I have a day off because God Size has a show. So then God Size will play, and then I pick back up the 5th in Asheville at Fleetwood's with Busy Weather. The 6th, I'm at, I have no idea how to pronounce this, so I'm going to completely butcher it. But it's the In Quixote Art Gallery in Greenville, South Carolina.
Fun. Have you played in an art gallery before?
Yeah. The kind of music that I play, like we play a lot of house shows and art galleries and stuff like that. Then I drive to St. Augustine, and I play Nobby's Bar in St. Augustine, and then I have a day off to party.
Okay.
Which by party, I mean I'm going to do laundry and sleep, probably.
That's how things tend to go.
Yeah, and then I hit Orlando at Uncle Lou's LMGA, and then I have a show in St. Petersburg with the Yellow Door Collective, and that is a fundraiser show for, and I can't think of the name of the organization, but it's basically a Nashville organization that helps house like LGBTQ youth that have found themselves unhoused.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And then I play at Lucy's Bar in Gainesville, Florida,
Okay.
which is like another one of my favorite places to play. I played this festival earlier this year, or I guess last year now, called The Fest in Florida, which is like a big like punk rock festival.
I think I remember seeing some of your stories for
yeah,
that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't shut up for like a month over that one. That's that's my favorite. That's my vacation for the year, getting to go play that.
Returning to that.
Well, I'll be playing Lucy's, which is it's a dive bar. It's very similar to the Hideaway here in town.
Okay.
But I'll be playing there on the 11th with Borrowed Sparks from Nashville, who's my tour mate.
Okay.
Sammy K from New Jersey, who's like a good friend of mine. And this singer-songwriter from Nashville named Matt Woods. Like I sadly haven't listened to him yet, but the last tour that I did through Florida, his name was plastered everywhere, every bar that I played. So
he has a good reputation.
yeah, and my friend Bob Fleming, who he's from South Carolina, and we play a lot of shows together too. Bob absolutely loves Matt, so I'm looking forward to that show. And then when we finish that show, we drive. Well, I go to the airport and I fly home, and then the wrap up of that tour is going to be at the Hideaway with Off With Their Heads, and Off With Their Heads is like my absolute favorite band on the planet. So
okay. And are they a local band?
No, they're actually, this will be their like 20th anniversary tour.
Okay.
And they're a pretty big name in punk rock. And I'm not really sure how I got the show, but I went and saw them live, and I was talking to Ryan, the writer for that band, and I was like, "Yo, you guys should come back to Johnson City." And he had so many good things to say about when they were a young band before they blew up, like playing in Johnson City. And I was like, "Well, let's just
so awesome.
yeah." So I was like, "Dude, let's just do it."
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
What date will that show be at the
That'll be
Hideaway?
February 12th. It's a Sunday night. We're going to get it started just a little bit earlier for Hideaway time.
Okay.
Still late. It'll start at 9 as opposed to starting like 10 or 11.
Okay. Can you share a little bit about that venue for someone who's never been there?
Yeah. So the Hideaway is, for me personally, it's my home. I've been playing in bands there for 20 years now. But it's a small dive bar. It's a beer only bar. There's no smoking inside. And they just they've been kind of like our CBGBs. Like they've hosted, in the genres of music that I listen to, the biggest bands in one of the smallest rooms around. So, I don't know if you're familiar with like Andrew WK, but Andrew WK played there.
Vaguely, but I did not know he played there.
Yeah, he played there a couple years ago. Frankie Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle, his band King's Foil, played there a few times. And, Agnostic Front and Madball and Trash Talk, like all these big hardcore bands have graced the place.
I remember Power Man 5000.
They played Capone's.
Capone's, that's what. Okay.
So the Hideaway is about probably, I would say it's like a 90 to 100 cap room.
Okay. Does it tend to fill up?
It does, yeah. It fills up, and it's every city has one of these dive bars where like it can be a little bit intimidating to walk in, and like because it's gonna be your like artsy people in there. It's gonna be your punks.
It's a tight knit community.
It is, but like everyone that goes to that place like looks out for everyone and like looks out for kind of new people coming in, and like it's a very like familial vibe when you hang out there. But it's it can be intimidating going because like, I guess, everyone has their circle, and,
Sure.
for the handful of circles that frequent that place, it's the same.
Anytime I've gone, I've always felt welcomed.
Yeah.
Like it is a little scary walking in if you're not used to
Yeah.
the punk scene, but like everyone's friendly and
I will say this with 1,000,000% bias. It's the safest bar downtown. Like,
awesome.
there's never, not that there's never drama, because it's a bar and you can escape drama, and it's in downtown, you can't escape drama. But it's one of those places where like, it's a true safe space. So
Awesome. And on that note, so the Hideaway, what are some other kind of small, intimate venues that you've played locally within the Tri-Cities that you'd recommend someone to go see for musicians?
small venues wise, there's the Hideaway, there's Elder Brew in Bristol. The step up with a little more, with a little bit bigger of a room. There's Capone's. Capone's is always great. Sometimes you have to navigate the club crowd versus the rock and roll crowd,
Sure.
which is never really an issue. They do a pretty good job with the size of staff they have, and I guess crowd control or whatever there. And then most of the breweries and most of the restaurants, they do have like a night where they'll bring in someone to play for a couple of hours. I don't do that quite as much. I don't know if I'm just grouchy about it or what, but that's not really like my, like, I guess, like business scope.
You're just more kind of selective on.
Well, I'm not selective. I try to be a little more selective, like playing locally these days, because it's very easy to play so much that your friends quit coming and seeing you. If you, and it's hard because like it's your buddy's band, and like you really want to just go hang out, and like the 40 minutes to an hour you play is the icing on the cake. But you gotta sometimes be a little more selective about like, well, if I'm saturating, then like I'm not really doing anything other than like putting my name on flyers, and
Right.
that doesn't give you time to write or like buy more merchandise or work on like touring or anything like that.
Sure, and I definitely want to circle back to your tour here in a minute. But that kind of brought up something. I'm curious, what's it like playing for a more intimate group of friends versus like a crowd you've never been in front of, like maybe in Florida?
There's the answer to that answer has evolved.
Okay.
I quit drinking like a year and a half ago now, and so relearning how to perform sober in front of people when I was used to being like a really, really fun whiskey drinking, like rowdy rock and roll person.
Yeah.
Now I just am a fun, rowdy rock and roll person. But playing to a crowd of 5 or 10 people, which is something that happens a lot for people when you hit the road, whatever, like you're marketing yourself constantly, and sometimes your marketing falls flat. So playing to a really small room, and then that small room also not being full is like that's the most intimidating thing in the world. If I go play a show in Gainesville at Lucy's, which is still a small venue, but I don't know anyone there. If I go to Lucy's and that place is full, like the energy carries me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
When you get in a room where it's not full, or you like just have a handful of people there, or it's your friends who like you like. I mean, I care about what everyone thinks of my music, but all of my friends are like fabulous artists, whether they're musicians or whether they're painters or like chefs or whatever it is they do. Like all of my friends are the best at it. So it's like when you get in the room there, it's like you critique yourself for them, and it's that can be a little more intimidating for me.
Sure, I'd imagine there's like a sense of vulnerability when you're sharing music that you've written about your life experiences with those you care about the
Yeah,
most.
absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes if my partner is at the show, I played I played at Cherry Street Tavern in Chattanooga a couple months ago, and it was a fantastic show. And it was all like kind of old punks and hardcore dudes that are my age that are all now playing like sad boy acoustic music. And there's one song in particular that's another one about a close friend who like didn't make it, and I had to tell my partner to quit looking at me like during the song,
Like
because
while you're playing?
when she was making eye contact with me, I could like feel what it felt like in her stomach when I was singing it. And so like, mid verse, I was like, Crystal, quit looking at me. And she got up and left. So yeah, and not in like a bad way. She was just like, you got it. And she went and
Yeah.
like stood somewhere else
Y'all are
because
in
it was,
tune.
yeah.
And Jacob is also a father.
I am.
Have the kiddos been out to any shows?
They come to some of my shows. They don't go to all of them. They they're hitting those ages where like even if they did like the kind of music I played, it would be mortifying for them to like see their dad on stage. You know what I
Fair.
mean?
Like to
Yeah.
come jam out. Like not yet.
Yeah.
They'll get there.
Yeah. But they come to a good amount of my shows and they like sing along and they know all the words to my songs and that
That's
always
precious.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's circle back to your tour. So we stopped on the 12th at
Yes.
the Hideaway.
Yeah, that's the last date of the tour. That wraps it up.
Okay. And that's it for February.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think I have another date in March. I'll be playing like a local show at Capone's with Bob Fleming and the Cambria Iron Company, my buddy from South Carolina I was talking about.
Very cool.
And I think that is a St. Patrick's Day show. So
That should be a fun one.
yeah,
I'd imagine. So along with being a talented musician, you also operate a small business here
I
in
do.
Johnson City.
Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, I operate a hair salon called King of Hearts at 214 West Unaka. Just gonna throw that in there. And we have two stylists working. I'm there. My name is Jacob Danielsen-Moore, and I'm a licensed cosmetologist.
A wonderful one at that.
Thank you.
I'll be in soon to get my roots done.
All right. And we also have a barber, and her name is Shelby. And she's been with us for about a year. She is a fantastic barber. She is an absolute surgeon with a straight razor. Yeah, she's cool. And then under the same roof, we share a hallway with Amethyst Healings, which is a massage therapy studio that my partner owns.
Also, a wonderful place to get a massage.
Absolutely a wonderful place to get a massage.
Go here, get a massage, and get your hair done, and just have a relaxing start to the day.
That's the order of operations because you don't want to get your hair done and then get a massage.
Nope, I haven't tried it that way. I don't think.
You want to be able to have the oil shampooed out of your neckline and like, yeah.
How long have you been doing hair?
I got my license in 2011, and my first job was with Craig at Crown Cuts.
Cool.
And it was so fun. It was great. But I knew that I wanted to do both men and women's hair. And so I stayed with Craig for a couple months, and then I moved to Bang, a downtown salon. And I worked with Laura Altizer, who's a dear friend of mine and one of my favorite people on the planet. I worked there with her for 6 years, and that's where I really, I think that's where I like took off. You know what I mean? That was where I learned what is like my style and what is my craft. And she was a great like business owner to work under, to kind of, I don't know, just see how you can do it,
Yeah.
without getting a bunch of debt and
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and losing, one thing I learned from her that was, aside from, hair technique and stuff like that, one thing I learned from her was a work-life balance
Oh,
that,
yes.
yeah. And because when you open a business, like, work-life balance is non-existent. Like you're watering a plant constantly,
Sure, and I think it's cool that in life we can be grateful enough to find mentors who can kind of help guide us
Yeah,
through
yeah.
these obstacles.
And she, when I opened my own shop, she gave me like stations and a mirror and sent my chair from Bang with me. I mean, it was cool knowing that I kind of learned my chops and learned how to run a business from someone who understands that there's enough food for everyone to eat. And that, because when I told her that I was opening my shop, she could have just cut me from the book that day and been like, all right, good luck here in a couple of months. But like instead she was like, hey, what do you need? Do you need furniture for the store? Do you need whatever? She's like, let me know what I can help with. And she was an absolute godsend.
Right. And you talk about kind of like learning your craft and your style.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how does that balance kind of meet with music and doing hair, and kind of combining your craft and style into that balance?
So I didn't travel and play music for about 6 years, because doing hair is one of the few things I've ever done that I like more than playing music. So, like, even now, if I have like exciting like cuts, exciting colors to do throughout the week, that I get to really like make weird or do something like a little outside of the box, I'll be more excited about that than like a show that I have to play. You know what I mean? Because it's that's an extension of my creativity. And
Absolutely.
so definitely the styles they kind of intermingle a little bit. My cutting style is a little more chaotic than some people's. I don't usually part. I usually don't set a guide with curly hair. I do a lot of sculpting. I do a lot of like, I'm gonna cut this until it looks like I want it to look. And like,
I just have to say it, like having a haircut from you is one of the few places I've felt confident in just being like, take it.
yeah, some people don't like that, because there's I would, if I was teaching someone how to cut hair, I would tell them to not do what I do. And not that like I'm not like this like guru or
I was
whatever.
gonna say hair guru.
But like I've done it long enough that like I've developed good and bad habits. So my bad habits still finish a product by the end of the day. And they do it safely and they, maybe do it a little messier or whatever. But if like I was teaching someone and they just weren't already set and they didn't already understand like mapping someone's head or whatever, like I wouldn't tell them to do things like that. I would definitely be like, hey, section this off and find your guide. And like maybe go draw what you think this is gonna look like. And
Cut it out, like trace it.
Well, not cut it out, but like draw it and like envision like where it's gonna fall on this person's head. So but my brain moves a million miles an hour, so like the rest of my body has to as well. Like I have to have a ton of things going on, otherwise I just like stop.
So around the work-life balance with cutting hair and fatherhood, partnership, how do you fit songwriting into that?
Sometimes when I'm driving, I'll hum a melody or I'll find a hook that I want to sing and I'll voice memo it on my phone. And then when I get home, I'll like find the melody on my guitar and I'll record that hook and then forget about it for like 5 years. And
I'm
then,
glad I'm not the only one recording like on my voice memos as I'm going down the road, which I never follow up. But
so songwriting, I don't set aside time specifically for it. And I don't like I rehearse, but I don't rehearse regularly. I have rehearsals with bands like at least 2 or 3 nights a week. So
Currently, even?
yeah. So like songwriting wise, I'll just if Crystal and the kids are gone in an afternoon, I will like just kind of beat around on my guitar, my banjo, and like just like, oh, this sounds good, or I don't like this, or whatever. And then like at some point, like a song hits me and just falls out of my face, and then like,
Oh, I love it.
yeah. So I'll do a voice memo, so I'll remember it, and then if I have a show coming up, I'll polish it and then try to play it at the show. And if it works, then it's just a new one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing your story with us.
No problem.
I did want to go back real quick to, you had said like some of your songs, if not all of them, have an Appalachian influence.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's all music wise. I learned how to play bluegrass. So the first thing you learn how to do is what everything is going to at least have a flavor of for the rest of the time. It's like it seasons the pan for you. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
lyrically, I like in the music we listen to, so much happens in California, and so much happens in New York, so much happens in Miami.
Whole California playlist.
Whole California playlist. And, the South is one thing, Appalachia is another, and so we have our own accent, and in those accents we have our own dialects of, if you carry on a conversation with some of our friends in Whitesburg, like their accents are going to sound different than our friends from Irwin.
For sure.
But like if you are hanging out with someone that lives in Elizabethton, their accent's not going to sound exactly the same, or they're not going to have the same phrases they use as a person that lives 15 miles away in Pogey. You know what I mean? So what I like to do is the storytelling that I do in my songs, I like for it to happen somewhere. I like for it to happen in like, I usually make up another name for a place. But things happen regionally. I put phrases in my songs that like I use in real life. I can't use those on here, but yeah. But it's all of my stuff is storytelling, and it's all very relatable to me and who I am.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really interesting to look at our region broken up into the parts like that kind of make it all of Appalachia, because each place is so distinct.
It is.
Down to the downtowns, down to the music even, the music scenes in each town. So you feel like there is like a pretty big punk scene going on right now?
Not really.
No? Okay.
But so Johnson City's music scene isn't a punk scene. It's not a hardcore scene. It's not an indie scene. But it's this collective of like, right now I feel like there's like 3 or 4 age groups or 3 or 4 generations that each one of those generations have probably, 8 or 10 people in them that are 5 or 6 bands of those 8 or 10 people.
In this area, particularly.
And all of them are like out of this world songwriters and musicians. So, of my era, we've got like Nerve Endings, we got my bands, we got Vespers. Most of those bands are a little more influenced by heavy music and by like kind of like stoner, like sludgy, like metal stuff. And then a couple of years younger, you got like that circle that is like the Kindest People and Motto and the Loose Balloons, and like all of those guys are like like to me they're amazing because they're all so in their community focused. You know what I mean? And there's a lot more nihilism in my generation than there is in that generation. And then like younger even than them, you have bands like Flory and the Feeling and Just Fine and
I've seen a lot of them surface more.
That and Cosmicosis, like that whole circle. And those kids are the best musicians I've ever seen play music. Like,
And is this a newer generation?
I don't know. So I don't know how old they are. I'm assuming they're all like mid-20s to late 20s.
And they have kind of their own sound because they came out to.
They
the
all
Rock
have their own
Company.
sound. They're all like proficient like jazz musicians and like
I
funk
love to see
musicians.
jazz coming back.
It's crazy to watch them because they're like, I'm not like I know them, you know what I mean? But like I'm almost 40 years old. They're not like I don't our orbits cross and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're all like they really inspire me to want to like be better at what I do because they just like effortlessly put out like what I feel like is the most quality music around.
Absolutely. I love thinking about generations and even thinking about our children, how we can learn from them to be better.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that same concept.
It's not like a punk rock scene. It's just like I said, it's just a collection of musicians that all are really good. So
Just a sub to the community.
yeah,
Well, Jacob, thank you so much for being here.
no problem.
today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell our listeners how they might learn how to find more about your music?
Yeah, I am on Spotify and Apple Music and all of those. It's Jacob Danielsen-Moore. Danielson is spelled Danielsen. And I'm also on Bandcamp. I just put a new single up on Bandcamp last week that's going to be across all the platforms on the 30th called Love Appalachia. And
Check that out.
yeah, it's a little more of a jaded tune, but it's one of my favorite things that I've done. Matt Sykes produced it for me, so it's got a taking away from my normal like sad acoustic whatever it is I do. He put a really fun, almost like postal service feel on it, which is like something that like I've kind of always wanted, but I don't know how to do.
This is your new single?
Yeah, for the new single.
Look forward to checking that one out.
It's on Bandcamp, jacobdanielsenmoore.bandcamp.com. And you can also find all of that through Downspout Records.
Okay.
So downspoutrecords.com.
Downspout Records. Awesome. And then for hair salon services, social media, is that the best way to get in touch?
Instagram is King of Hearts JC.
Okay, very cool. I just have a couple more questions before we
Sick.
wrap it up.
Let's do it.
These are a little more personal.
Okay.
So, Jacob, what motivates you to get up in the morning?
Hey, you're gonna make me go dark over here. No, that's hard to answer. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I don't like to stop moving. But I'm very, very blessed in the job that I do. All of my clients are fantastic people. And so there's not really a morning that I dread my first client. So I think just not knowing what the day is going to bring and also knowing what the day is going to bring makes it a little bit exciting to open your eyes in the morning.
Seems very balanced of you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that you are not drinking alcohol currently.
Correct.
So do you have a favorite mocktail or like a favorite drink to make? Even could be water.
Actually, most of the bars in downtown have started carrying NAs.
Which I love. I see that more at restaurants as well.
And
So like non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, my go-to if I'm out is just a soda water with a splash of cranberry and a splash of pineapple. It's refreshing. I'm more than likely have a dry mouth when I'm out, and so it's great to have at a show. Tipton Street has started carrying these bottled non-alcoholic gin and tonics, though.
Very cool.
And that's probably my favorite drink in downtown right now.
Okay, it's like in a glass bottle or?
Yeah.
That's cool. I love seeing more places hopping on board.
I do too.
Alcoholic beverages.
I do too, because it's You know, there's sometimes when you quit drinking, you have to just remove yourself from every situation that reminds you, and that's fine. But sometimes you just have to quit drinking, and you don't want to carry around like a plastic water cup or a water bottle. Like there's still that like social inclusive thing that you want to have with your buddies if you're out at, you know, if you're at the ale house or if you're at Tipton Street or whatever. So most of those places have been great to like carry non-alcoholic beers. A Bush NA, and like I know this is gonna sound terrible. Bush NA is the most beer tasting non-alcoholic beer they make, and so it's kind of my favorite.
Okay.
And it's a good throwback to like just kind of being an old redneck dude. So
I love it. And I remember, like, we went to a festival, my friend and I think it's called Death Water. It's like a
Liquid Death.
canned water. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time that I went to Fest, there were dudes like shotgunning those, and like everyone was like really amped, like, oh, I got to get my hands on one of these. And so we went to the tent, and they were like giving them away, and we're like, oh heck yeah, you know, whatever. And everyone cracked one open, drank it, and was like, this is water. like no one knew that it was water, and it was this whole
That's
thing.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. No pressure.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite dad joke?
A favorite dad joke?
Yeah.
Oof. It's more of a military joke, to be
Okay,
honest with you.
that's fine.
Yeah.
If you'd like to share it.
Just so I heard that the Norwegian Navy started putting QR codes on their ship.
On their ship?
Yeah, but it turns out it was actually like it was a barcode. So they all have barcodes on their ships, so that when they come into port, they can Scandinavian.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's the worst
Okay.
and my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, this is gonna go over my head. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Again for being here. So be sure to check out Jacob's new single and follow him on all the socials. And also follow Northeast Tennessee on all the socials. And you can check out our website for upcoming events and happenings in the region at northeasttennessee.org. And thanks for tuning in, where there's more to do, more to be, and more to see when you meet me in Tennessee. Jacob, thank you so much.
Thank you.